episode 292 at Off the Cuff Radio. What's the deal? This your boy, King Eric the Great, a.k.a. Rick Capo, coming at y'all on this special Friday night episode with a double header. And I got my man T-Max with the facts in the building.
Yeah, what it do? OTC, Friday night, the place to be. We doing it again and again and again with a double header, man. You know how it go.
For sure, man. I mean, first of all, before we bring on our first guest, I just want to say that I want to give a big shout-out to my man Gonzo. We had a great interview this past week. We just posted that interview up on YouTube today. A lot of good information he was dropping. Be sure to support that Caution album right now. That joint is hot.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
So,
look. Go ahead, King. Go ahead.
Yeah, so yeah, man, that we got the replay up and everything on Blog Talk. So if y'all want to download it, feel free. We also gonna have it on Audio Mac and other streaming sites. So we ain't playing. You're gonna catch us everywhere.
Look, we ubiquitous like the atmosphere all over the air, man. You gotta breathe us, man. I got that outstanding oxygen. Of course, shout out to Gonzo from Caution. Still bringing it. In the year 2020, going ahead, man. So the West Coast is still alive and well, which is also the perfect segue for our guest tonight, King. Go ahead and bring on the living legend. It is one of the undisputed greats and an invaluable
let me tell you something,
and most
man.
respected friend of our show.
Big asset of our show, one of the few solid guys in this industry. I would say that's the real solid 10% of this music business. A real good friend of mine. And you know what's dope about him is he stay consistent. He stay reinventing himself. He stay putting out dope music. And for him to put me on the team as the ambassador of the brand has been an honor and a privilege, and I have learned so much of the ins and outs of the business since I got down with the team. And it's only a pleasure to bring this guy on, man. The legendary West Coast Funkadelic, Kokane, y'all.
Yeah. What's happening with it, man? I appreciate all that love, fam. You already know, nephews.
Man,
No doubt, man. It's been like a good year since you've been on, man. So it's only right to bring you back on, because I know you have a lot of things in the works.
Right, man. Yeah, we got some goodies coming out this year. We just had a marvelous year in 2019 with the album called Finger Roll, and that's actually still selling a bunch of units, you know what I mean? So we got a couple projects coming out in September. We'll be working my daughter's singles and my singles as well for our new album. She got a project coming out called Young Colombiana, and then I have a new project coming out called Wake Up to Get Your Cake Up. So we putting out tons of stuff out there. There's certain, nice pivots, business pivots for me, as far as different other avenues of business. I got a weed strand coming out called OG Cocaine, the new apparel. We just got a lot of, I don't want to let too much cat out the bag, but just say we working, man, and we got some good stuff for the people out there.
Man, look, Uncle Coke, it is always an honor and a privilege. You're still the OG opera player from the Himalayas, from Pomona. You're still putting it down after all these years, man. And, wanted to start off, of course, asking you. Now, of course, last year when the top 50 list, came out on, a lot of, on the internet, and everybody had their weigh-ins about, who they felt their top 50 was. Was that an inspiration for your song, for top 50 list, to really kind of address, your place, which is undisputed, is one of the legends in the game? And I think that was for a lot of people's listings. And King can go ahead and reschool me on who initially put out. King, who was initially put that list out that got everybody inspired to go ahead and do their top 50 list? Who was that dropped it last year initially?
I think it was Joe Budden.
Right.
Joe Budden had a weird list, and then you had Rosenberg. He had a weird list. So everybody else just started following from there.
Right. Well, I kind of I kind of on that subject, I kind of humored my own self. I kind of took it as a joke to make that song because nobody defines you, except the actions that you put in and the work that you put in, and when it's approved by the people that you were able to be there, influence them, actually influence them to help save them lives. You don't need nobody's, bogus ass list. You know what I'm saying? So when I did that song, Top 50 Rap List, it wasn't really taking it serious because, a lot of people over the years seem to forgot about what Kokane did. Not everybody, and certainly not the people in the streets worldwide. But, that's the way this game is. It's mostly a favoritism game, gossip-oriented game. And I just wanted to, humor myself, but at the same time let these cats know that Kokane ain't just on some la-la shit, that nigga can bust. You know what I'm saying? So, we took it back to the old school because, with what the internet did and the gossip and all this kind of stuff, it really kind of killed hip-hop off with the mumble rapping and all these different series of theatrics and gossip in the music industry that didn't have nothing to do with real bars, real subject matter, and different other things. But I don't knock no youngsters hustle. That's what you don't do. But there's a difference between a Kobe steak and a top ramen sandwich. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, with the Top 50 Rap List, I really wanted to just reflect on something. Go back into the days and let people know in my humble opinion about, what I felt was wrong with the game and how we need to get back to the real art form of hip-hop and arts and entertainment, and as far as graffiti, as far as breakdance and pop lock, and just the culture. You know what I mean? So, the records that I put out, I don't make records to follow other people like a duck. If a million motherfuckers quacking like a duck, you know what I'm saying? I'm an eagle, fam. So eagles don't quack with ducks. They have their own lane. They stay out of the bumper traffic because there's too much bumper traffic. And that's one thing about Kokane. I never left my fan base down. You always gonna see something real dope and real funky with Kokane. So that was the first leak off the upcoming album, Wake Up to Get Your Cake Up, called Top 50 Rap List. And we also, in 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to be dropping a remix with my guy, my little bro, Crooked Eye.
Shit. Okay. LBC.
Wait till you hear that one. Yeah, wait till you hear that one. You know what I'm saying? So we just now starting the Kokane campaign. And like I said, man, I appreciate you, E, and nephew right here for rocking with a legend, man.
Man, look, one thing about it, Coke, is that, you've always consistently, for really over 30 years in the game, have always laid it down in terms of what it is. And as you alluded to, and that was a great ass analogy that you said about the Kobe steak and the, the ramen noodle sandwich. And side note for those who may not know what Coke meant, by the Kobe beef. Kobe beef is raised in Japan, and these cows are on their own island, and they are fed specially. If you gotta ask about how much a Kobe steak is, all I can tell our listeners
you don't
out
need
there,
to know.
Yeah.
Now don't get me wrong. Ain't nothing wrong with them spreads, but hey, after a certain level of your game, you don't want to be talking on block phones when it's smartphones.
Yeah, man.
You know what I'm saying?
One thing about it, and I mean, the one thing about your gift of rhyme and gab, it's always been the gourmet of grammar genius in your articulation. There is definitely no one like you, who has been able to weave all the elements of fantastic funk, a fierce flow, and a humble kind of humor all into one while still keeping it gangster at the same time. And that's been passed down to your daughter, Anissa as well, in terms of how she, has inherited that gift from you. And I think one thing about the top 50 list in terms of how a lot of people have their variations of it is, as you said, there's always the problem sometimes with lists is that while people have their preferences and it's arbitrary in terms of how people want to play. Like you said, people tend to get caught up in the mix of what's current in terms of who's popping, but who didn't, put it down on the pavement, being a trailblazer for everybody to follow behind.
Right.
And I think that's where a lot of times us, it's not that, like you said, we down on the youngest, but I think the lament we all have at times is that a lot of the youngins, not all, but a lot of them really don't understand the foundation in terms of East and West Coast and down South as well, who really, put down, who really, 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 made hip-hop what it is today.
Right.
And, a lot of these artists, who were out, who were kind of who we thought bubbling, we're not here on the show to, like, shame nobody, but there are a lot of artists who a couple years ago, who everybody thought was going to be the next one, and they didn't really turn out to be that one at all. So it shows how fast things can change, and good music lasts. And I think that's what some artists have to understand. You got to make something that's going to be lasting and not fleeting, that's just for the moment, but is a longevity and legacy.
Right. Well, I could compare it to, some wine. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean, if I ask you how much a bottle of 1875 bourbon, or not bourbon, that's because that's whiskey. How much 1865 cost, and it'll tell you what it is. You know what I'm saying? Something very special, old preserve, is going to cost you a lot. Now, you can go ahead and get your Carlos and Rossi all day, and you can get drunk the same way, but it has a different taste. It has a different, difference to it. That's the difference between the minor league and the major league. And when you get to a certain point, you've got to be able to not just understand the aspect of creativity, but the aspect of how to put out records, when to put out records. Because a lot of people get upset expecting, they're going to get the right results when they're selling ice chips in the winter storm. It don't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So it's much more to this game by redesigning yourself and being patient enough to do the research, so that way you can stay ahead of the game. And we've been fortunate enough and blessed to really do our homework. We know moments come and go, but can you last forever, and can you make it elevate? And that's all we're about over here with Buddy Boy, especially as a family-oriented business. You know what I mean? It's about elevating it. Some people, they rush. They rush instead of taking their time to put out some quality stuff and learn the ins and outs of the business, because they're on their own time clock. When you're not on your own punching the clock, you know what I'm saying, and you basically on your own clock, I should say, things are much, much different, fam. So we pride ourselves on continuing to have fun, because, if you're not having fun doing what you're doing in the process, you're not going to understand it when you get there, when it comes to you. The real thing on elevating in this game is not when you actually get to your goal, but it's actually when you learn from the process to get to your goal. So we keep that same type of drive. Don't make it over-exaggerated. Just stay 10 toes down. Well, I should say 100 toes down, and keep it moving.
And you know what's dope, y'all, is that this is a real family-oriented business, too, man. It's not like homeboys off the block. Like, Pope really has his entire bloodline running Buddy Boy.
Yeah. And still to this day, you know what I'm saying? So, I can only speak for myself. Whatever, people's situation is different from mine. I was blessed enough to have a family and come from a musical background. But at the same time, wherever you assemble your team, that's your family. So, assemble the right team. Be around people that want to celebrate you as opposed to tolerate you, because when you have people that celebrate what you do and sharing your vision like you sharing theirs, that's just a recipe for success. You know what I mean?
Definitely, man. And it's always, I think a lot of times people really have to understand that your team is only as successful as the people around you. And like you said, knowing the business from all aspects, I wanted to ask you this question about situation recently, that what happened with Mase and Puffy, where Mase came and aired out Puffy about the whole deal with his publishing. And I wanted to get this from a veteran as yourself about the aspects in terms of understanding the business in terms of, you know, knowing your paperwork, make the paperwork, and what you hold on to as your intellectual property, and how, you know, because we didn't see that one coming, because, you know, you've known us long enough, Uncle. We don't put anybody out there in terms of, you know, throwing straight shots of gossip. We go by what's been documented and is what's been said publicly. And there has always been that situation with Puffy about he hasn't always had the most sterling reputation in terms of how he has dealt with his artists. And but we didn't necessarily expect Mase to just come out of nowhere with left field and just, you know, just say that. How important is it for artists to really understand, you know, because we see so many that get in these similar situations, not just limited to him, because a lot of times artists coming in the game, they're looking to get on right away, so they're just they're looking to get paid right away as opposed to making that money properly perpetuate, paid in full down the line. What do what do artists need to understand about this in terms of how not to get in these situations where somebody's basically holding, you know, your book of rhymes in a sense? Because that's essentially what your publishing is. And breaking down, if you would be so kind, you know, how these royalties in a business work.
Well, you know, Mase is just an example of many, many more that got done for their publishers. You know, see, people think this is something new. You can't reinvent the wheel. The wheel is the wheel. You got to look back, and since the music industry started and we were making black music, but they would put white people on the cover. You got to think about from those times where TLC rolled up into a Subaru to the awards and they had top Billboard hits. So how the Mase thing really ain't new. It's just as an independent and via the internet and things, much more things are exposed now. You see what I'm saying? So it's not new. You know what I mean? And those that talk a good, I'll say this, those that talk a good game learned it from the same motherfuckers that fuck them. So they turn around and fuck the artists below them. In this game, this music industry is one big ass Ponzi scheme. So you can't have the energy or the attitude to be in the music industry as opposed to be in the music business.
And it is a difference.
The business is that. It's like the dope game. Don't be signing them contracts without reading them, man. It's the dope game. And if you're able to learn, because I had to learn, you know, all that stuff, you know what I'm saying? I got done wrong in similar situations, but what don't kill you make you stronger, and it sharpens your business. So I was blessed and fortunate enough to not have handcuffs on me and have my autonomy and independence and do what I do now. But a lot of brothers come in with the right intentions, but for the wrong reasons. They want everything to come to them, and you can look at cats like Warren G on Vlad. You can look at all these cats, man. Motherfuckers wasn't getting their royalties. People ain't getting their royalties. This is when it comes to the music business. Music is nowadays it's like a hobby because of it's so widespread it out. It mutters the real talented people out there, especially, you know what I'm saying, with the garbage shit. You know what I mean? It's like it's kind of hard to even handle your business. But, you know, as far as signing the big record labels, because they're going to first thing they want you to do is sign a 360 deal. They take the publishing, they take this, they take that. So you have to have the attitude that go back to opening up your first business and framing your first dollar. It might not be lines of people coming through, but one good thing that separates you different from that is that if you keep going, you're going to keep elevating, and you don't have second and third parties on your monies. You don't have people signing over your publishing just because you got a gold chain. They bought you a house that they own and you rent. You know what I'm saying? So the whole thing about it with the Mase situation, you know, Mase is one out of many, 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 many examples that happened since the dawn of the music industry. But the good thing about it is that, take Minds in particular. We've been running our company for 13 years, but the last year and a half, we had to work ourselves out all these years as a family. Shout out to my queen and my sons who did all the intel and research. Well, we created our own Buddy Boy digital platform because we got tired of getting to the point to where iTunes take 40%, Amazon take their percentage, and then when you run it through the distribution, you know what I mean?
Rewind that, cuz that's like, wait a minute, because I didn't know this now until you just said this. Wait a minute, iTunes gets 40%.
Man, something like that. Amazon, between them, they take so much percentage off your stuff. I'm pretty sure I'm correct, but
right, but they do get a percentage. Got you.
They get a huge
I
chunk.
ask anybody to do their fact checking because I'm a factual person. But the whole thing that I'm saying is that you have to get to that point to where, if you're creative, that's cool, but that's only 10%. 90% you have to learn how to put register music properly. You have to learn about the SAG checks and the AFTRA, and you have to learn about sub-publishing overseas and mechanical license, sync fees, and all these things. But if you stay on the piano, man, when you get off that motherfucker, man, you're gonna be playing like Elton John around this motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? So it goes back to that, like how if you're really serious about making money in this music industry or music business, I should say, because it really ain't no music industry. You know what I mean? You're gonna make sure you hire your proper attorneys, to read all the contracts, and don't settle for nothing just because people are dangling a piece of meat on your head. You know what I mean? Don't accept $5 when you know you're worth $100. Period.
Definitely. And it's crazy, man, because that's something I think a lot of artists really have aspirations for, but you really have to have, you really, like you said, you really have to have the knowledge of it. Now one, young gun out there I really fuck with heavy out on Broadway, gangster, BG Perico with So Way Out Entertainment, and to watch how he's doing his thing, man, I mean, that dude is like, shout out to BG, man, because he is like really moving heavy out there with his own movement, man, and I think that's really, he doing his thing, young boy doing his thing, man.
That's what you got to do, man. I just cut a record with him and, what's little bro, Burner. You know what I'm saying? So it's always, ain't too many Negroes that I ain't touched on the microphone, on their record. So I love his attitude. Your attitude determines your altitude. He ain't on no funny stuff. So the young brother's going to go a long way, I predict.
Definitely. Now also too. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was saying, talking about projects, do you still have that EP and movie with CJ Mack in the works?
Yeah, we do right now. Him and Caviar is at Snoop's compound finishing up a record for CJ Mack called Grown Man Business. And we pushed that back, you know what I mean? Probably they come out 2021 because I got an album I'm coming out with myself, which is The Wake Up to Get Your Cake Up. So definitely, man, that's my, that's my brother, you know what I mean? And I'm very, very glad to see someone with his experience, you know what I mean, and what he's been through to really get, season some of these youngsters that really want to know what the game is about, you know what I mean? So shout out to CJ, you know what I mean? Love him. Shout out to Caviar. They definitely doing their thing. And you're going to be seeing the Baking Soda and Water EP and mini movie coming soon.
Man, now it's also something too, man, because we'd be remiss also because I wanted to get your, we wanted to get your insight on the wisdom, because we would be remiss to do our show without giving our respects and condolences to Pop Smoke, rest in peace, with that situation happened a couple days ago. How important is it to make sure in terms of moving, because there's so much that's being said, about supposedly, the the assailants had grabbed his that address off of a package. It just happened to be up on social media. But right now, it's just a whole bunch of just all types of just confusion about how those people found the house and what happened. But how important is it to understand how to move and pretty much stay low key and just make sure that all your business is not readily available for those haters out there? Because I think that's some. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, man, it's getting worse out there. People are getting more hungry. People are resorting to desperate times, desperate calls for desperate measures. So you can't come out here with this perception that you just free. Now, it wasn't the youngsters' fault, you know what I mean? Whoever did that was some cowards, but at the same time, we all can learn a lesson that, look, from him, the Nipsey Hussle, et cetera, there's a lot of, not so famous cats that was almost on the brink of being famous that lost their lives too. You know what I mean? So it teaches us how to be more aware. You have to be more reserved. People don't care if you're a rapper, singer. I mean, it don't matter if you the Beatles or if you whoever. You know what I'm saying? You really got to safeguard yourself, and you got to pump down the flossing too. And I'm not going to say that Brother Pop, was a flosser, but you got to be very careful because there's a lot of hungry, desperate, scandalous spirits running around, and they'll quickly, that's starting to become a norm now. Like popping rappers is starting to become a norm now. You know what I'm saying? So you don't want to be a statistic, man. It ain't about being a punk. It's about being smart. And the bravest nigga I know had scraps, chunkums, was a straight killer, but right there in the grave. So, you got to move by learning from other situations just so it can benefit you, and especially if you got a family.
Do you think a lot of times because social media has become so ingrained in the culture now of hip-hop, that there is an emphasis on celebrity but not necessarily on safety? Because like you said, man, we're from an old, we're all older, so we understand the importance of kind of keeping a low profile. There's nothing wrong with being visible at certain levels because, this is what we do. We're journalists. We got a little bit of notoriety. So, but by the same token, we don't want to put ourselves out there in a way, nor yourself, especially you being a family man, with the excellent 8 of your offspring, that's imperative. That's of the utmost safety, and sanctity for your family. Do you think a lot of artists sometimes really think in terms of what they do out on the net, that that's supposed to portray an image where, like you said, more or less it just makes them a target because they really don't understand the danger for people?
It makes you more of a target nowadays. You're a target.
Right.
That's the name of this game. This game, and really, nobody cares a lot about, helping the community songs. Nobody cares about that. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to popular music. Now,
right,
we all got some sense in our head, 2 brain cells left, so we get it. It's about family. What's gangster to me is turning things around and helping your community with staying out the way. You know what I'm saying? But the mentality to be able to put on, you got to diss somebody, you got to be in beef. Those type of gossip-orientated energies is really the ones that get put out there because show me the landscape of the hood and the suppressed ghettos, I'll show you where music is at. And that's why you have, because where the music is at, you've got rappers thinking they need to come in and diss somebody or be this and be something that they really are not. You know what I'm saying? And then when it gets to them, it's this certain narcissism and arrogance that comes with it. You know what I mean? So if you're a youngster, man, I would suggest, brush up on your attitude, humble yourself. You know what I mean? Because the karma that you put out there, if you're not careful, you're going to eventually get it back. The universe is going to pay you exactly what you give it. And I ain't passing judgment. I love my youngsters because we were young too. We were running around crazy and with Eazy-E and all that, and Tupac. But at the height of what's going on, from my era to this era, let me tell you something, it got worse, brothers and sisters. And we got to be able to have some accountability to, not everybody going to listen, but at least one person out of 100 listen. That, hey, man, let me learn from this experiences. My favorite rapper or my homie next door, let me do a little bit things different. Because in the end, when you do a little bit things different, you realize once you get to that place of having things and securing things, especially for your family, you realize that's going to be the best turn you made in your life. Now, life is about choices. You have choices now. What are you going to do with those choices? So you want the probability to be more in your favor on living, first of all, because you can't do shit dead. When you surround yourself around people that are going in the direction of positivity as opposed to negativity. Negativity will make a bunch of money, but then all of a sudden you'll hear somebody getting killed. Now, you ask yourself, was it worth it? And hell no, it's not worth it, man. We want y'all. I express this to everybody, whether it's the music or business. I want you to live, man. I want you to live. I done records with the greatest MCs in the world, from Nipsey to Tupac to Mac Dre to KMG to Eazy-E to Jay Dilla to the Jacker, and the list goes on. And I guarantee you, if they could talk to any youngin right now, they say, look, man, I should have had a little bit different because I do want to live. You know what I'm saying? So, not to sound all preachy, but, if those are listening to me and inspired by it, it might be 100-person listen, but, it's only one going to really pay attention.
Now, you mentioned Cousin Nip. Oh, go ahead, King.
Hey, you know what? We talked about this yesterday about the lack of the morale code in today's society. We talked about that on the interview we did with Gonzo. Now, do you feel like today just have the reason why things just seem like it just imbalances because there's a lack of ethnic code or there's a lack of morale today being preached?
It's programming. It's television. It's programming. Hollywood used to do it to us first. That's why, the world perception of black people was like these ignorant-ass people that come out of expression. Nobody didn't really talk about them putting dope in the hoods. You know what I mean? So when the world is looking at us, they have a perception because hip-hop and music industry is just not an American thing no more. It's a worldwide thing. You know what I mean? They never showed the successful black businessmen and black businesswomen. You know what I mean? So it's an attempt to go ahead and that way, once those conditions stay on our minds, that we'll have some type of form of institutionalized. So we start doing it to ourselves. We keep killing each other. We keep hating each other. It's because you've been programmed to do that. Like a Manchurian cannon, you are programmed. And you might think you'd be doing something, but you are programmed. You got to break out of that matrix system, and the only way you're able to do it, sometimes if God snatch things from you and remove a couple things you might think is bad, but embrace it, because once you forget the struggle, you forget who you are as a human being. And black folks in particular had to struggle so many times, and no real reparations came here. When you finally get you a business and when you finally get a hold of something, when you have a record company or something, you might have to take the slow road, but in the end, you know what I mean, there's going to be a blessing in disguise, because that's what it's all about. It's about securing your future and your partners around you that you want to see get out the same thing. So as far as the morale is concerned, we're being bombarded by, fear all the time. Every time we turn on CNN, Fox, or the news, we're bombarded by fear. You know what I mean? But this is the age also where you don't have to fear. You can just let go and change the way your environment is. Because a lot of times brothers get in trouble because of their environment. They think they need to uphold some type of code. No, the real G code is if you can get out of jail, open up some business, go legit, apply your hustle money into something proper and turn it around, then go back to the hood and get your niggas. And that's a real G code. But this other thing, they don't know what G code is. I mean, snitching is popular. Being dope, being whacking, using drugs is popular. So you can kind of say, man, it's not a lost cause, but it's pretty damn close to being a lost cause.
And one thing about it, because we haven't talked in a year, because we hadn't talked to you since Nipsey passed, how did that impact Los Angeles, the whole hip-hop movement out there in terms of knowing what Nipsey stood for in terms of what you mentioned in reference to the entrepreneurial spirit, the master motivator, the marathon man himself of the movement, being a family-oriented and, giving back to his community. Of course, the marathon continues. Shout out to Pac-Man, the Gunman, and Jay Stone, and the rest of All Money in Entertainment. We see y'all out there on Crenshaw. Shout out 60s all over. What did Nipsey's death, how did that really what did that really do for a lot of artists, including yourself out there, in terms of really understanding, in terms of the impact and just the depth of it?
Well, he was on to something. I mean, he was able to find and maneuver his way around things that were, he learned from. You know what I'm saying? You got to remember, one thing that Nipsey was not afraid to say as a youngster is that I learned from the Snoops, I learned from this person, I learned, and he took it in his own way. And that's what's special about him, is that he wasn't afraid. He learned from the OGs and was able to bridge the OGs and the young Gs together. That's why his push, his passing, I'm not gonna say death because his spirit still is. It was really significant. It was really significant for people nowadays to follow his lead and be like, hey man, if Nip can do it, I could do it. And it go back to that 100 people. I don't expect 100 people to go ahead if you compare 100 to 1 or even 100 to 5. I don't expect people, because people is a trip. They like puppets. They'll have all this sympathy. They'll come to your funeral and they'll go back on the block the next 2 weeks and do the same fucking thing.
Right.
But I'm glad out of those 100, Nipsey was able to reach 5. So whichever 5 is inspired by each neighborhood, that's gonna make a big difference. And the name of the game of trying to reach somebody is all you trying to do is reach one. But he did something bigger than that, man. He put his life on the line. He didn't know his life was on the line, and he was a martyr for those 5.
Yeah, man. And I think that's something where, in terms of the movement. Yeah, man. And it still felt by the spirit that he had, and it still carries on to this day. Because when you see people still, he inspired a movement to really go out and do for self, in terms of really understanding, about how you really have to, how you have to really set things in place for your future generations and just learning the business. And, that's one thing about it because, and I knew about Nipsey going all the way back like 10, 12, 15 years ago. And it was just, you just could see where he was, you could see that he was steadily progressing with every project, and he was just, you knew he was destined for something great. We didn't know, the greatness, how that greatness would manifest, but we knew it would be something. And
right.
I don't think we knew that in terms of where it would really come to, like this, he would really become like this, this hero, and then you have some individuals who shall remain nameless, but we try to say he wasn't a legend. I'm like, well, what constitutes a legend? The fact of the matter is, this man's music, was already when he, the album Victory Lap was in itself because he had already won in terms of making his money on the street with his music. This man already had the marathon store going. Yes, he's legendary for what he accomplished and for the fact that the album came and, he really it was something that, it was a great album. This wasn't like, just some passe project. No, it was a great album. And it really cemented, albeit a tragedy in his, untimely demise, it cemented the fact that this guy was serious about what he was doing, and we still had the best to hear from him.
Yeah, well, you know what? People gonna have their opinions, and the man died. Man, the man lost his life. You know what I'm saying? And he did more. There are some people that do more in 5 or 6 years that validates them a legend, because it's not like Tupac was here. You know what I'm saying? In 2020, he been gone for some years, but we call Tupac a legend. But he only had like a 5 to 6 month time span. Nipsey had a little bit more time span. So, you know, with those critics, and they're gonna have their opinion, and what I've learned to do is respect everybody's opinion, because nobody has to agree with your opinion. But in my humble opinion, you goddamn right, Nipsey Hussle's a legend times 6. You understand? What he did for the culture, what he did for setting up people and using the inspiration of that he had. Man, come on, man, it's unmatched, man. He died too soon, man. He died too soon because he had more shit. But whoever he affected is really gonna take heed, and we all could take heed from that and have a little Nipsey Hussle about ourselves in anything we do.
Yeah, man. And that's
it's about leaving them long-term legacies as well. It's like he still left that legacy, just like from what he built up with his mixtapes to his albums. They had it with pumping like albums. Yeah. And it's also about that musical legend, and which correlates with what I'm about to bring up here, because it's funny this popped up when we bring you on the show that it's been 30 years since Above the Law dropped Living Like Hustlers.
Right. Yeah! That was the blueprint for a lot of shit right there.
Now, one thing about it, Coke. Is
I didn't even want to bring it up because I didn't want to show my age, but it's a milestone nevertheless.
You know what? And King, it is perfectly okay. It is perfectly all right, because, and I definitely want to get your perspective on that, because the one thing about it is people look at the Chronic as really being kind of like the Chronic was the watershed moment in hip-hop where we really saw that G-Funk sound really take its place. But for those real heads like us who really understand it, the original Pomona players Above the Law, they were the ones that really
masterminded that whole thing.
Yeah, how significant was that release when they dropped that in terms of really Big Hut, Chaos,
and it was crazy, bro. Like driving it, they can't do that nowadays. But we was actually driving around in the paddy wagon for a promo with like 10 cops following that paddy wagon. They don't do that. They I remember they got on Nip Head about his bulletproof van. No, we actually had Easy got us bulletproof vans, paddy wagons, Above the Law. We had bulletin signs everywhere. Those guys was on the way of being just as big, if not bigger, than NWA. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? They would have been, but when certain things happen, like the New Music Seminar and the fights with Cube, and it's just like it's just like compared to Death Row and Ruthless. A lot more people took Death Row side, so it's the same type of scenario. You know what I mean?
Right. But I think a lot of people got to understand, too, man, that where you're from in Pomona, man, y'all really laid down a lot of shit. I mean, yourself, sugar free. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, Above the Law, of course, they will go, you had the Vocally Pimpin', you had Time Will Reveal, you had Legends, of course.
Incredible.
Of course, you want to lead track California.
Funk Upon a Rhyme.
Yeah, man.
Incredible. Niggas for Life album. Like, man, was my first platinum record, man, that a lot of people don't know. Like, look, man. My first platinum record was 1991. Double platinum.
Mm-hmm.
I was a co-writer. I wrote Eazy-E's 10 Gangster Commandments for the Appetite of Destruction, as well as guest appearance. So, A brother ain't, and you know, and I say this with all humbleness, but I ain't new to this. I'm true to this.
And
you know
one thing about it, yeah, and I mean, the one thing about it is, you know, you're a distinguished vet in the game. You know, well, we've talked about this so many times because the fact is, for you to still be with us, and you know, we're so appreciative. We always give you the bouquet to let you know of the roses, to let you know how much we appreciate yourself and your family. How does it feel to really kind of see just hip hop transcend in terms of you, and you know, in terms of making those transitions and you being not only a part of it but being an integral piece of it, you know, in terms of being one of the all-time greats in it of real contribution.
Man, well, it's a blessing. You know, it's a blessing to be an old battleship and always get new guns. You know what I'm saying?
I like that.
You know, and I like being an old battleship, but I'm always got new guns. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I contribute that too to all the fans, you know, that kept Kokane alive when the radio was scared to play my name, and some is still scared. You know what I mean? I really appreciate all the DJs that was, you know, me like, man, Kokane, playing all those classics that I, you know, had a chance to get on. You know, so, you know, it's surreal, man. At the same time, I'm humble, but at the same time, I'm hungry. And you got to keep that hungry type of attitude that always keep you fresh.
Yeah.
Now, two more questions I want to shoot to you before we go on and bring our next guest in for the second hour. Now, out of all the people that Snoop Dogg has collabed with, you have been the one that did the most collaborations with him. Now, have you guys ever thought about doing an album together?
I mean, well, actually, we kind of did the album together, the Last Meal. Snoop has never put so many other artists outside of his own camp on so many songs. I mean, when I was at Doghouse, with everything together, with the Last Meal, all the songs, the East Siders, Churches, Volume 1 and 2, Doggies, it's like over 60 songs, bro. It's a lot of songs.
Yeah.
So he just so happened to be, you know, one of the A-list artists that I did the most songs with as far as an individual artist.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But I got to admit, though, man, and I got to say this is a personal favorite. Between the Last Meal and Welcome to the Doghouse, Welcome to the Doggy Style All Stars, Welcome to the House Volume 1, I have to say, man, that's like, those two albums right there, I was like, oh my God. Especially when I first Welcome to the House. I was just blown away.
Oh, man, appreciate that.
I mean, on that opening track, and I can hear your vocals all on singing on that first track, man. I'm like, yo.
Man, we had some good times, man, some Kodak memories. You know, I cherish those moments. They're very much part of who I am now and the future. You know what I mean? So remember, good music don't have a time date on it, a time limit. You know what I mean? And it was just a blessing, man, to look years back from being on the Chronic and, you know, all those records at Doghouse. Just, you know, building with certain cats that ain't here. You know, it's surreal, man, because life is extremely short. You know what I mean? So you got to be grateful for every moment that you experience, you know. And I just so happen to not just be a participant, but also be a disciple, really, from that Ruthless Tree. You know what I mean? That was our church, Ruthless Records, and everything started from then. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, you can look at the tree. The tree is just incredible. But thank God that I was at a time where Above the Law Code 187 pulled me in under their wings and let me get exposed to Eazy-E and put my name out there and let me be a part of some incredible moments in hip-hop history, period. You know, so I take that and inspire a whole nother generation because I've been doing this for 3 generations now. And it's just a blessing, not so much to be a preacher, but mostly be a teacher because I love the young artists take some of the advice and mix it up how they do it, because they're going to have to do it their own way. But nothing is more encouraging as a person like myself who's been in the game a long time to be able to see somebody go ahead and take your advice. You know what I mean? So that's the blessing part of being here, still making records that, number one, it inspires my kids and inspires shit like three generations, man.
Yeah. And, we had DJ Speed on a couple weeks ago, and one thing about it with Easy, people may say what they say about him, but, Easy with Ruthless and NWA, without him, we would never have heard, all of you, because he paved that way in terms of really, bringing it in for everyone to really, come in the game, and I think Easy needs to be, celebrated in terms of, we choose not to rehash the drama because that's been said so much already. But we do want to focus on the fact of the good, because we do feel like he gets a bad rap a lot of times.
Got some headache, man. Yeah,
but
brothers like you, man, that's a blessing, man. That's a part of the real hip hop. That's not part of the AI. Some of this generation is artificial simulation. You know what I'm saying? It's
right.
AIs, it's robots and shit. For you gentlemen to stay consistent in pushing the culture, is the very same reason why, it's beneficial for the turnaround, for people to get back to real hip hop, get back to real bars, soul, funk, and music with substance. You know what I mean? So I applaud y'all at the same time, man.
Well, look, we appreciate it, and one thing about it, we've always tried to stay consistent. With this being King's baby, his vision, we've always stayed true to tenets of it. One thing, as long as you've known us, shout out to our co-hosts, of course, a lot of Sandman, Lady Chinchilla, myself, T-Max, and, of course, King, who's on the throne. It's like we've always tried to maintain a high journalistic integrity of just bringing the facts to it in reference of what goes on, but also wanting to get a real dialogue with legends like yourself in terms of what really goes on, and just staying away, because we see too many people out there who try to play on sensationalism and a lot of drama and tabloids and don't really concentrate on trying to really give the historical facts and the hallmarks of what makes this culture so great that we all love so dearly and deeply.
Right.
And that's something that people like yourself are constant living reminders of what inspired us to do what we do. And you inspire us, so we never said it. We want to thank you for what you've done for us.
Man, I appreciate that. And I got some more inspiration for you, too. But, yeah, it's always a pleasure, man. I appreciate, being part of the campaign. He's definitely been pushing it out there, the real. And just whatever y'all like, man, all the fans out there, DJs, push that Kokane shit, man. And push that Young Colombiana that's coming real soon. And that's my daughter. Yeah, shout out to, young Buddy Boy Princess. And we're just going to keep putting that good music out there, music that people love, not Hollywood.
Yes.
Yeah.
Most def, man. I'm going to keep in touch with you, bro. I'm going to hit you up tomorrow, and we're going to keep everything updated, and hopefully we can bring Anisha onto the show, too. Because we're going to try to reach 300
cool.
quick.
Yeah, that would be nice, man. We don't look at we're not in the rat race, put it like that. You know what I'm saying? We base our shit off a slow cooked meal. We don't do McDonald's. So that way, what I'm saying, let me say it to you in layman's terms, if those don't know what a slow cooked meal, take your time with your shit so it tastes good. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's right. With the new projects that's coming out, the Wake Up to Get Your Cake Up, the Young Colombiana album, it's like Daddy Like Daughter. It's a handing down the baton for music royalty. You know what I'm saying? So those records are coming out in September. And then visit our site, man. Go stop playing. Go get the Classic Kokane Collection. We just put out the latest album, which is Finger Roll. It's still doing units and numbers. You know what I mean? And just, make sure y'all follow the Cocaine Campaign 2020. We doing something when nobody else ain't doing.
Man, look, we going to keep following that uncut. Yeah, man.
Yeah. And big ups to y'all. Big ups to Lil Bro Classic. All the motherfucking fleet DJs. Yada, man.